Hello and welcome. I'm Austin Koblarczyk, arranger and composer, bringing you episode 6 of Book Review. This week we'll be discussing Vincent Persichetti 20th-Century Harmony. So, as always, we'll start with the author, Vincent Persichetti. As a composer, I'm somewhat familiar with his works. I've played a few of them in wind band settings, the divertimento particularly, and I've had opinions. Something tells me Persichetti no bass clarinetist, and I can tell that from reading the parts, but what can you do? I've looked over some of his other work, like his first piano sonata, which I have right here. Yes, now it's facing the camera. And it's an interesting read. I'm not a pianist who can play it, but I like looking at it. I like listening to it. Persichetti himself was something of a big name in mid-century writing. Mostly a piano writer, but in my opinion, his legacy really lives on as a wind band composer, as he kind of spearheaded the, should I say, second wave of wind band writing in the mid-20th century. I mean, it started out, obviously, with Sousa and his contemporaries who kind of propelled the wind band into American popular culture. But I think people like Persichetti and Frederick Furnell really picked it up in the middle part of the century. And I think that's where his legacy lives on, mostly. He was one of those really early pioneers. And he taught at Juilliard for 40 years, which should tell you, big name, good composer. Or at least a very skilled composer. So the book is interesting. It's a very technical book. And it's kind of an approachable one. I won't lie, there are a lot of dense portions and stuff that can be very hard to understand on a first read through. There's stuff in here I'm not sure I understood right, quite honestly. And it's very clear that this is a textbook for advanced harmony. So yeah, just keep that in mind when I talk. So the book itself, published in 1961, still stands the test of time. If you're searching for a modern harmony book on Google, this is one of the first results. And it's quite easy to see why. This book has a wealth of information. Favorite part, quick spoiler here, is that it ends and begins with the exact same quote. Any tone can succeed any other tone. Any tone can sound simultaneously with any other tone or tones. And any group of tones can be followed by any other group of tones, just as any degree of tension or nuance can occur in any medium under any kind of stress or duration. Successful projection will depend on the skill and soul of the composer. Which, ladies and gents, if you're following along at home, brings us up to 2 really cool quotes in this series so far. The rest of the book is split into 13 sections of varying length, each covering a different topic, which listed 1 through 13. Intervals, scale materials, chords by thirds, chords by fourths, added note chords, chords by seconds, polychords, compound and mirror harmony, harmonic direction, timing and dynamics, embellishments and transformation, key centers, and harmonic synthesis. This book clocks in at 279 pages of content, which does not include the composer index or the subject index, both of which are several pages each. It's full of concepts and examples, which I recently discovered there is a whole website out there for you that has an audio file of each example in the book, which I will of course link in the description for your viewing pleasure. Now, one of the things I enjoy about the book is the end of each section and each chapter. At the end of each section, there's a list of source material from relevant composers, which, while not entirely modern, as this book was published 61 years ago, still holds some large names of the composing world. Leonard Bernstein, Stravinsky, Copland, Bartók, tons of others. But at the end of each chapter, as some chapters have multiple sections, there's an applications section, which is a series of suggested exercises that cover the topics in the chapter, which highlights again that this was written as an advanced harmony textbook. Now, I won't go too in-depth on the sections, as that would take quite some time, and I'm not sure I can give it or do as much justice as Persichetti could himself. But I'd like to take a second to highlight a few quick things. Number one being the concept of mirror harmony, which I find fascinating, as you might be able to tell from the list of examples I have taped to my wall right next to my workspace. I'm not going to explain mirror harmony, basically because I don't understand it, at least as far as I can tell yet, but it fascinates me, and is a great example of how you can find some really weird techniques in here. Stuff like the undertone scale, which is an inversion of the overtone scale. Or, as Chapter 2 talks about, in Chapter 2 Scale Materials, polytonality, polymodality. Lots of poly things. Not any polyhedrons, though. Just making sure you know. There's a lot of fascinating techniques in here, honestly, to bring your writing to a more advanced, modern level. I find that interesting. Before the end of the review, as always, accessibility. This one rides the more expensive end of the books I've covered on this channel, being around $50 on Amazon right now. But as I said, this book has been out for 61 years, so I'm guessing it wouldn't be impossible to find a copy within a more reasonable price range, just based on, used bookstores and the internet being a hub of finding pretty much anything. Hell, I'm certain you can find a PDF of this book out there very easily. Now, the final opinion. Do I think you should buy this book? Honestly, it depends. Will this be overly useful to someone who is interested in basic songwriting? The 4-chord guitar stuff, where you sing and play guitar at the same time. Probably not. Maybe. Will it be useful if you're interested in becoming the next John Williams and winning awards for your innovative film scores? Maybe. Probably. But maybe not. Mostly, I like it. As approaching this from my concert side of my career, as I philosophically split my career based on my interests, not weird at all, I think it's fascinating. I think you should buy it. The other side of me, the budding jazz composer, who also is a songwriter part-time, not overly interesting. This isn't going to make people dance. But the classical-oriented side of me finds this fascinating and to be a beautiful starting point and chock full of tools for my wind band and choral composing. Ultimately, up to you on this one. I don't actually own this book, as you can tell by the PDF I keep putting on the screen every time I mention it. I will, however, when I have cash for my next batch of books, buy this book. Just to let you know let all of you know what I think on it. So, as always, if you enjoyed the book review, feel free to like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. If you have an opinion on the book, if you own it, if you don't own it, if you're looking to own it, if you've read it, if you know someone who's read it, leave a comment, start a discussion. I'd love to hear about it. As someone who's about to buy the book soon, or maybe get it for Christmas, who knows? I'm happy to see discussion in the comment section. As always, relevant links are in the description, and that's all for now. Thanks. See you next time.